Chris Cahill, President of the New Zealand Police Association, and he joins us now. Chris, welcome to the show. Love to have you on.
Hey, good morning, Michael.
Hey, mate, it's no surprise because I know you know that, just trying to think, it was May of last year. You and David Seymour went head-to-head on this particular issue. And David Seymour, as the ACT Party leader, doubled down and said, nope, we are not going down that line of the Firearms Registry. It's a waste of money, and it's going to be a bottom line for us in our negotiations. So you wouldn't have been surprised, therefore, that Nicole McKee, who's been given responsibility, would proceed to review that. At the end of the day, I guess it'll be a coalition decision to make. But you've got pretty toey about it last Sunday. Why?
Well, there's two key things that have got us toey. The first is that the consultation process that she's begun, she's deliberately excluded us from. So it's one thing to have a view, which we know she has, but to then exclude others' views from the consultation process is completely different. And secondly, is we still think if you're going to have someone in charge of firearms review, it shouldn't be. And
Chris, just on that issue, though, if you don't mind me asking, just on that particular issue, she knows how you think. I mean, it's no secret. You reinforced it again on Sunday. You had strong views leading into this. You haven't changed your mind. Why would she consult with people when your views are 100% crystal clear?
Well, she's consulting with all the firearms groups whose views are 100% crystal clear too. Because what we can add is real-life facts around how the registry is making a difference today. We can give them examples from frontline cops or where they've been able to identify criminals getting firearms from licensed firearms owners, diverting them to them because of the information on the register, and we can show the advantages of it. Now, that's not in a policy document. That's real life that our members are telling us about, and that's why we should be involved. I mean, if you look at the stated purpose of the registry, right, it's to stop the diversion of firearms to organised criminal groups, clearly what our members do on a daily basis. It's to make frontline police staff safer. Well, one of our key goals is to do that as an organisation. And the last one is to give licence holders more confidence when buying and selling firearms. So two of the three things directly relate to our frontline members. And so that's why we believe we should be consulted.
I understand. I understand your view and about consultation, but your view won't have changed since a year ago. Or the years prior to that. The registration, the consultation is being carried out. As I understand, she is consulting the police, though, isn't she? And won't they have a primary input into this particular review?
Well, I think that's the development from yesterday with Television New Zealand that's become very interesting. They've identified that police advised her that we should be consulted, that we bring a different perspective than the police policy advice she gets. And she deliberately rejected that and then tried to actually have that advice removed from the documents that were eventually released. So it's quite concerning because that actually shows, one, that she deliberately excluded us, but two, then she tried to hide the fact that she'd been advised to include us.
All right. So let's now take the argument. I have to, if I've got a gun, register it in New Zealand. We've got a pretty extensive way of, I've tried to get a gun, to be honest with you. Chris, I didn't realise quite a process it was to actually acquire one in this country. But after I've acquired one, your view is that they should all be registered and that registration data, so Michael Laws has got a gun, I live at the Dunes, Cromwell in Central Otago, these are all my details, this is the gun, and that ends up in a central data process somewhere, yeah?
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
yep.
And it's as simple as that?
And yep, it's all done online. When you buy a gun, it's registered from the shop. Otherwise, for people that already have them, they've got 5 years. They can do it online. They can amend it if they sell it or pass it on. They enter that data, so it's then transferred to the new owner, etc.
So it's a bit like me owning a car. I register my car every 6 or 12 months, whatever it might be. They've got all my up-to-date details, and ta-da. That's how it works, yeah?
Yep, that's exactly how it works.
How will that stop arms falling into guns falling into the possession of gangs?
Okay, so what's been identified, and look, I say I've learnt from this process, because I always believed the most common way criminals got their firearms was stealing them. But in fact, after the Christchurch massacre, police set up a dedicated firearms investigation team. And Nicole's been briefed on all this, so she knows this is what the facts are. And what that team's identified, actually, the most common way criminals are getting firearms is a licensed firearms owner, such as yourself, could do this, buy the firearm, and then you sell it to a criminal who couldn't buy the firearm legally. So diverting them. And what a firearms registry prevents or allows is, I can say, look, Michael, you've bought 5 firearms, they're registered to you, where are they? Oh, I haven't got them. Why not? What have you done with them? Whereas without a registry, you can buy as many firearms as you like. They're not registered to you. There's no controls over whether you still have them or you've passed them on to someone else. And look, police are catching criminals out of this all the time. Just this week, 5 men appeared in the Nelson court. 4 of them were licensed firearms owners. 1 had had the firearms license revoked. 2 of them worked for a firearms dealer, and they have been deliberately failing to register or registering wrong and on supplying those guns to criminals.
Okay. Brenton Tarrant's often used as a sort of poster child on this, but the police botched that themselves, didn't they? They wrongly granted a firearms license to Tarrant, which ironically set all this off because he's the one that then killed people. The mosque massacre. Yeah?
Yeah, I would own that, without a doubt. I don't believe police correctly followed the firearms license vetting process there. And to have 2 referees who hardly knew him was inappropriate. Totally accept that. People say that I don't comment on that. I totally own it. But equally, I don't think we can ignore the fact that the reason Tarrant came to New Zealand is that he knew he could, once he got a firearms licence, buy semi-automatic assault rifles, which he wouldn't have been able to buy in Australia.
No, but he shouldn't have got one in the first place. I mean, he should have been
he shouldn't have got a firearms licence.
Yeah.
But there's 2 sides to it, though. I mean, it's not one thing, but I certainly think police own, or if they haven't, it's my view they have, but they should own the fact that he should never have been given a licence.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, and you know the logic of this, Chris, it's that led to this. So that massacre, Christchurch Mosque massacre, led to one of the recommendations, as you know, the restriction particularly on semi-automatic weapons in this country, which up until then hadn't really been too much of a problem. But now suddenly, obviously...
ask the victims of Aramoana if it had been too much of a problem.
But that was I was around.
Does it matter? Does it matter? The
1994.
recommendation there was to ban semi-automatics. We ignored it. If we hadn't ignored it, and if we hadn't ignored it again with the recommendations from the Select Committee in 2016, he wouldn't have been able to buy those firearms because they would have been banned. I mean, we've had other shootings, the Northland shooting.
Do you honestly believe that David Gray, who was a complete nutter, Chris, as you know, and a murderous nutter, would have not killed those people if there hadn't have been semi-automatics available?
Well, what we do know is that
you can purchase.
But we do know a semi-automatic firearm allows for a lot more deadly assaults because it's a lot quicker way of firing much more bullets than a non-semi-automatic firearm. And that is why the semi-automatic assault rifles are the choice of mass shooters all around the world.
But is that the only 2 cases we've got in this country? David Gray and Aramoana, which goes back to the, I think, early 90s. I was in Dunedin
there are only 2 mass shootings, but we've had semi-automatics where... semi-automatic assault rifle was used to kill Matthew Hunt, the police officer in Wairapata. It was used to...
So where did they get the gun from that? I mean, I'm aware of the case.
That had also been diverted, not directly to that shooter, I understand, but diverted from a licensed firearms owner.
So let me get this right. In that particular case where Matthew Hunt was killed, he was killed, I think, at a basic traffic stop or something. Is that right? Is that the one in Auckland, that case?
Yep, that's correct, yes.
Yeah. And then some strange woman who didn't know the shooter, aided and abetted him to escape. Is that the case?
That was the bizarre part of it, yes.
It sure was. Quite an attractive girl too, I might add. Anyhow, point is, Matthew Hunt dies. He's shot by a semi-automatic that's from a bad person. And you're saying that he got that, or somebody else in that bad person's, Eroitu, I think his name was, he got that from another bad person, and originally it was legally bought by a legal person.
That's
In
my
that particular
understanding.
case, is that illegal and did that get followed through, Chris?